Hello again, guys. So basically, the other day I was on the tanning bed and I was listening to a new Kanine track. I think it was called Blood Something in Ascension. And I noticed while I was listening to it, in comparison to my mix, it had this nice 3D contour, this punchy, almost physical depth to it. And it was very glossy, very tight, very glued, and almost plasticky but somehow physical as well. Now from my experimenting, I know how to get these sounds and I know what kind of procedure I want to follow to reproduce the effect that he got in the mix, whether intentional for him or not. Whether the aliens made it for him or not, I don't know, but I know how to reproduce that sound. So essentially I came back and I started working on a operation to mimic it, and my idea was to use some sort of saturation, some wave shaping and some parallel limiting to essentially fold the sound into itself with parallel limiting, with no gain reduction of course, and essentially clip the shit out of it to make it glossy, and then cut into it with more parallel clipping and concentrated with external processing grouped back together. This is essentially what I came out with. You're looking about 80 mixes worth of processing. What I did was essentially start off by splitting it into almost an auxiliary equation here, a second one here with different saturation types that may essentially takes a grey, black and almost blue how do you say it, state, and merges it together to create some sort of physical body. The parallel limiting is essentially going to split it into two states. Obviously with the parallel limits I'm going at 0 dBVU, so I'm not going to be getting any gain reduction, but the idea is to create kind of like a block, split it in two, and then have the block laid with the original state that creates a physical abnormality or a split. And by doing it in states of 10%, it's kind of creates some body and depth, and it almost glues the sound and gives it that nice physical pop that you don't really get anywhere. You really can't get it naturally with just one or two plugins. You gotta really know how to like chisel it out and almost imagine the sound as a physical form rather than a audio wave or a sound. That's what my imagination took me with these operations. It's looking at the sound as a physical product rather than a sound. And the idea was to then basically split it into a build-up operation which brings the sound forward, but then have the cutting into each layer of the build-up nodes with the same function essentially, with the parallel limiters and the saturators and the concentration operations, and then essentially give it some sort of surface area here and here, which essentially splits the sounds into three positions in the stereo field using multiplication theorems of 1 to 2, 4 to 2 to 1, and essentially group it back together, saturate it in different states, but not in 10s, not in 20s, but I mean look, we've got about 2400 decibels drive here, 300 here, 300 here, and 300 here. So you're looking at a lot of wave shaping that really blazes the sound and almost like heats it up, so it turns into plasma rather than a rock or a piece of wood, if you think. So the idea was to essentially create a rock here, cut into it and sculpt it, then concentrate the rock while cutting into it and sculpting it, stretch it out, give it some surface area and dimension, and then heat it up and really like turn it into some sort of plasma jelly while retaining its original physical form, and then super maximizing it here. So by the time you loop the renders, the gain reduction in the first couple saturators here is going to squash the peaks and give you some nice depth, some nice volume, and some gain reduction. And this is the point I was trying to get out for this specific video. I didn't really think anything would come out of this project, but it really did. And what I was going to say is that while I was rendering, at the end of the state, I just clipped the waveform that I rendered to about a couple decibels of gain reduction inside the clip of full scale. And I noticed I was getting that nice 3D punchy glossy sound that you got on that Gangsters Paradise track by Llcooljgansters way back in the day. I think it has like 1.8 billion streams, and I realized that I could have possibly made it here and the aliens sent it back to them there to use in a accidental way that wasn't completely intentional. So yeah, I'm going to be releasing this project on Patreon with the fundamental outlook that if you want to get that rich, punchy 3D black plasma sound that you can't get with one plugin, you're not going to get it with 10 plugins, and you're certainly not going to get it straight away just imagining a accident. It's going to be very intentional here and very complicated. I find with these big tracks that have over 100 million, 200 million, 300 million streams, the wave shape state or the wave shape form the sounds originally come in are concealed behind the veil of very advanced methodological processing that is either done by aliens or sent back by aliens in some way, which you can't get with a simple one knob in implementation. So like I said, like all my other projects, you just drag the waveform in, you assign it to mixer 1, you gain stage down to 0 dB VU, and then you just render out the exit node, which in this case is number 82. If you want to go for that hip hop trap sound that makes you sound super big, super punchy, super 3D, and takes you back to the real reality that you're not going to get in this digital domain anymore, this project might help you. If you're making drum and bass dubstep and you want to get this crisp type punch that focuses your kick and snare and makes your basses 3D and real, this could be it. I want to basically say, yeah, that's it. And I'm going to be marketing this as the title, basically like try and get that K9 Llcooljgansters sound. Because obviously I listen to a lot of music and you don't really hear that characteristic of that glossy 3D punch with that rich black, like you always get a do you mean there's like a fidelity and a finish and a depth of detail and fidelity that you're not going to get naturally, I find, unless you buy a really expensive sample pack somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, if you just buy this, download it to your computer, you're going to need 4 plugins to use it. You got NEWFANGLED SATURATE, you got BLUECAT gain utility, you got KLANGHELM VU meter, and you got the KSHMR chain. It's about £100 worth of plugins. It's not that unnecessary. And the idea is that once you open up the project, you just render through. You don't have to do anything other than just basically gain stage the first aux and hit render. So it's quite simple to use, and it will help you get a really expensive, really sought after sound that even if you don't know what you're doing, you can very quickly just throw in a couple sounds from your mix. Let's say you're working on a trap sound, you want your kick, snare and your clap or your hats to come out really tight, have loads of definition and punch and pristineness. Just render this through and then maybe take your vocal and your AOA, dial it through, throw it in the mix, high pass your sounds, and within a few minutes you'll have a tight super 3D mix. And then render off your pre-master and render that through this as well. It will just glue everything together, unlock the sounds and the waveform into a very futuristic 3D state with a lot of punch, a lot of glue, a lot of saturation, and it'll just take it to a new level. I know some of these projects that I make, when I listen back to the results, blow me away personally, and it's nice to have. Like back in the day when I started making music, I would buy a new plugin, dial in a couple decibels of drive, and just look at it and say it doesn't really do anything, and I'll lose the excitement of using it. But now that I've made these projects and I'm able to amplify and augment the sound with the creative intention of what I had initially, which was to basically transform the sound into something crazy, amazing, these projects allow it. And like I said, if you're looking to get that LL Cool J Gangsters Paradise sound, if you're looking to get that brand new drum and bass Kanine sound, that I've literally I listened to about Chronicles, I listened to Subfocus, Dimension, I got some Tasuki tracks, and not a lot of producers actually have that sound. So just K9 at the moment in the drum and bass scene has this vibe and this punchy, glossy sound, which you, like I said, you're not gonna get for free. You're not gonna magically just put on a limiter and randomly get it. You're not gonna get a compressor, randomly dial it in parallel and get that sound. It's one of those hidden under the veil things that you can only get if you really, really go through the hell to find out. And yeah, thanks for listening.